Today I'll be talking to you about an apparent constraint on the way human language can talk about events that happen in the world. It's very difficult to think precisely about events, in the same way it's difficult to think precisely about things. Natural questions to ask that come to us from philosophers like Bertrand Russell and Donald Davidson include: how do we count events? How much can happen in one event? Can events ever include other sub-events? One way of answering this gamut of questions is to turn to human language and examine instead how we talk about events. Here things are surprisingly much easier. It's clear that verbs and verb phrases describe events. We can then learn more about what events are by learning more about the meanings of verbs. In a simple case, let's think about a sentence like Sylvia swam. This describes a very simple event. It picks out an interval of time where Sylvia was moving around in the water. But we can describe more complex events. If I say, Sylvia swam herself hungry, now I've told you about an event that has two parts. One where Sylvia was moving around in the water, and a result state where she ended up hungry because of the swimming. So it seems like events can have sub-events inside them. But notice that this event still seems to pick out a particular span of time where those two things happened right next to each other. Can we ever see a complex event where there can be holes in the sub-events? Examples like these are where my research is focused. And it turns out that there are a lot of them, but they show some interesting patterns. For example, take a sentence like, the band recorded an album in 2 months. This describes, it seems like, two sub-events, one where the band is recording, and then a result where an album exists. But we know that for those 2 months, the band wasn't recording the whole time. They were also sleeping and eating. These are the sort of holes that I'm talking about. So what allows language to glue those 2 months together and call them a single event of recording an album if recording wasn't actually happening the whole time? The answer I propose is that the glue is the band's plan, their intention to have an album at the end. Notice that it makes very little sense to say something like, the band accidentally recorded an album in 2 months. Other cases are like this too. In English, you can stick go or come right next to a verb to describe an event that starts with the subject moving somewhere. For instance, Juana will come sneeze. It's okay to say this even if Juana will take a nap on arrival before she gets to the sneezing. But notably and strangely, she's got to be planning to sneeze. This is very odd because we normally can say things like Juana will accidentally sneeze, but it's hard to imagine a world where Juana will accidentally come sneeze makes any sense at all. But it's important that this isn't a fact about English. It should be, as I'm stating it, a fact about language in general. And to test whether such a general hypothesis about language is correct, during 2020 I've been working virtually with Fe Silva Robles, a member of the Santa Cruz community who speaks and teaches Santiago Zapotec, an indigenous language of Mexico from the Otomanguean family, spoken by about 1,000 people in the town of Santiago in the Sierra Norte region of Oaxaca. In Santiago Zapotec, you can describe complex events like come sneeze by adding a prefix de to a verb for sneeze, xixe. As a result, to say Juana came and sneezed, you could say bde xixe Juana. This can make sentences where a large amount of information is included in a single verb. For instance, in the language you can say something like bde se kache nin biushquiden blujen, which means the children came and re-hid the frog in a hurry. A lot of that information is conveyed just on the first word of that sentence. And so the grammar of such constructions is very different from English. There's only a single word with a lot of information, but it does share two components of meaning from the examples that I've highlighted already. The events they describe can have holes in them, and nevertheless, they also require the subject to be planning the whole thing. I've used these facts to draw a conclusion about language as a whole. We seem to be able to talk about a bunch of separate events as if they were a larger one, only when the events are united as part of someone's plan. Now that we know this, we can turn back to the philosophical and psychological questions, and the picture is a little clearer. It makes sense to us that events aren't such atomic, accountable things, because in thinking about what happens around us in the world, we understand that a lot is driven by other people's intentions, and thus happenings that aren't connected in time or space may nevertheless be connected by someone else's plans. This fits nicely into our broader understanding of human psychology and development in the end. Humans, as always, are using our understanding of ourselves to understand the world around us.